So what is MongoDB? Now, let me first of all tell you that I do actually have a complete course for developers on MongoDB. So you might want to check that out if you want to learn way more about MongoDB than I'll be able to cover in this course. But now with that, let me start with a brief introduction to MongoDB at least. What is it? MongoDB is both the name of the company which developed MongoDB, but also then of their most famous product, a database solution, a database engine, you could say, a tool you can use to run very efficient NoSQL databases. The name stems from the word humongous because MongoDB was built for one major purpose, that you could store and work, and that really is important, the work part, that you could store and work with lots and lots of data. So MongoDB is built for large-scale applications. MongoDB is built to quickly query data, store data, interact with data. So it's really fast, and it's a really awesome database philosophy that is behind NoSQL databases and therefore also behind MongoDB. Now, how does it work? Well, just like in the SQL world, we spin up a MongoDB server, and there we can have multiple databases. For example, a shop database. Now, in such a database, in the SQL world, we would have multiple tables. In the NoSQL MongoDB world, we have multiple collections, like the users and orders collection, for example. Now, inside of each collection, we don't have so-called records, but we have a couple of documents. Now, documents also look different than records did. And it's not just about different names being used. The core philosophy behind the database really is a totally different one. For example, MongoDB is schemaless. Inside of one collection, your documents, which is your data, your entries, so to say, don't have to have the same structure. In SQL, that was totally different. We had a users table there, and in that users table, we had an ID, a name, an email, a password. Now, here, that is different. Here we can have any kind of data in one and the same collection. Often you will still end up with a at least similar structure, but you're not forced to have exactly the same structure. And this gives you more flexibility also for your application to grow and to change its data requirements over time without that being difficult to depict in your database world. So this is one thing. A document in MongoDB looks like this. And this looks a lot like JavaScript object notation. And to be precise, it kind of is. MongoDB uses JSON to store data in collections. So every document you store looks something like this. It follows the JavaScript object notation format. To be very precise, MongoDB uses something which is called BSON for binary JSON, but that only means that MongoDB kind of transforms this behind the scenes before storing it in the files, but you don't have to worry about that. You will basically use it as JSON. Now, such a JSON document is basically the same as a JavaScript object, you could say. And there, as you see, we can have nested, or as MongoDB calls them, embedded documents. For example, the address here would hold an embedded document. And you can also have arrays inside of a document. And that array can, like in this case, hold other documents, other objects, or it could also just hold strings, numbers, anything of that kind. So again, for the data, you have great flexibility. And the existence of these nested documents also means that relations are managed a bit differently in the NoSQL MongoDB world. So let me come back to that in the next lecture.